programs, and I'll show you a couple of the other ins and outs for recognizing when problems occur, what to do. So what I'm talking about in this is how to look at and understand the color profile settings for a specific InDesign document, and then we'll look at how different contents might come into an InDesign document and have different settings that you might want to adjust. The things that might come into the InDesign document might be images from a search engine where you're going to be downloading something, let's say, from iStock, which is clip art, or maybe clip art that you've purchased, or a scan, or something someone has sent you, or a photograph from your camera. Any number of things could be coming into this document and not have the right color profile settings. So that's the couple of different things happening at once. Under File, you have your document setting and your document presets, and you have your package and your pre-flight. Now, packaging or pre-flighting will help you to reveal any problems that might happen here. And I've just chosen this choice package, and again, I'm recording this so you can come back to this again later. If you need to move closer, feel free. So it's telling me immediately that I have links and images, and one link is found, 0 is modified, images embedded, and I have one using the wrong color space. This is a CMYK document, and I have at least one image, it's probably the purple flower, that is using the wrong color space. So that's the first reason why you would get that, the first idea of possibly why you would get the dialog box that you showed me, which is documents have different source color profiles. So that right there is a different color source profile. I'm not going to package this document. I'll explain what that means more later to you. I'm just going to click cancel. And you might want to, at this point, go back to that image and change it to CMYK. I'm not going to do that because it's a little off the question. I can fix it later and show you that. And I think you guys just want to relax and watch this and not try to do anything right now. Especially since you'll be able to come back to this later. I'm going to click away, making sure there's nothing selected so I don't break anything by accident. And I'm going to come over here down to the edit menu, and I'm going to choose color settings. And down here you can also see assign profiles and convert to profiles. Assigning profiles is what you do when you're working with a printer that has their own profile that wants you to use their profile. For instance, let's say you have some work that you created originally for a brochure, but now you want to take some of that work and put it in a billboard, but your director tells you that it's going to be using some kooky printing process and you need to check in with the printer. They will likely have a profile that they can email you, and you can assign it using this choice. If you're printing on a metal can, you might have a different profile. Things that would require different profiles would be things that are printed on surfaces other than paper or the standard types of papers. So if I choose assign profile, you can see that I can actually choose different profiles by clicking, and then, oh my God, there's really a lot of profiles. What do I pick? In the case of the example I gave a moment ago, if someone gave you a profile, you would put it in your profiles folder, and I can show you where that is on Mac. It's a little bit harder to find on PC, but we can dig for it. And you would put it in that profile, and then you would pick it so that you would have that one for billboards or that one for candy wrappers. Different color profiles, because different surfaces require different printing techniques. That's kind of a simplified answer of that, but the different surfaces act differently when the ink is on them. Like this brown Starbucks sleeve wrapper absorbs ink really differently than a metal surface that might have printing on it, such as the top of this computer sticker. This is a metal thing that's printed on. It has a different profile than this thing. Brown paper, shiny metal. All right, so to prevent in your own work environment these things from happening, a really great way to go is to go to the legacy profile for graphic design, which was established in 1998 before all these quadrillion profiles even existed. And graphic designers like this one, Adobe RGB 1998, that is the RGB profile. for this. If I was exporting this out as a slideshow, let's say, we wanted to show this in a meeting, we wanted the color to look as best as possible, we could get brighter colors by choosing this choice. If we were turning this into a PDF and then into a slideshow that we were going to show at a meeting, instead of just printing and mailing it or whatever. Okay. Down here, we have the CMYK profile. This is the printing profile. So the on-screen versus the printing. On-screen RGB, printing CMYK. For the printing profile, I'm going to change this to assign current working space, which is this one, which is my very standard United States. Web is the kind of printer, coded is the kind of paper. Web printing, not websites. Web means a kind of printing that actually, the printing belts are like a web and it spins around in a big loop, and that's called web fed. It's a kind of printing machine. That's why that says web. And then you'll see there's all these other types, sheet fed versus web. Sheet fed uncoated, web uncoated. So it's helpful to know what kind of paper you have. A cover is likely coated, even slightly coated or matte, and inner pages are likely uncoated. And that's why a cover would need to print separately than the rest of a book. And then they're bound together later. Okay, so we're just going to say this is not the cover. Okay, there's no cover in this InDesign document. We're going to choose web uncoated, and that's the profile that it's going to use for this document. Now, solid color intent, there's 3 settings down here. This one, I would generally leave these at the default settings unless your printer tells you you need to change these, and these would likely only be changed if you're printing on a strata, such as this table. This is printed. This is not wood. This is printed on a laminate surface. It's a design that's printed. And so these settings, the color, solid color intent, default image intent, after bleeding intent, these all things would probably be different if you're printing on different strata, meaning surfaces. So I generally would not change those. Some cases when you click the preview button, you will see a change in your color, which I just did. When I clicked this preview on and off, look how it changed the color quite radically. So now it's really showing me or previewing it to me what it's going to look like in this particular profile. If I choose a different profile, again, such as Japanese web-fed coded, it again changed the color. Okay, but it's not the same as it was when I had it on web-fed uncoded US. Changed, right? Okay, so now I have it set to however I think I'm going to use it most of the time. Make sure here that you are assigning these profiles, 1998, and probably for most things except for covers or anything that you know is going to be printed on coated paper, choose uncoated. Okay, and then it is now set for the design profile for this document. So I'm going to pause the recording and just take a look here at these things you have. I'm going to choose pause, resume here. So just to mention that the settings in Photoshop, if I go to edit my color settings in Photoshop, I want these to match my InDesign document, and they now do. And again, these dot gain settings are going to be relative to the type of uncoated paper you're using, because there's a big difference between newsprint paper and office white paper, but they're both uncoated. So you would need to know this number from your printer if you're printing it outside of the office. So that's the Photoshop settings that you want to be the same. And then over here in Illustrator, I will go ahead and open up a document. Okay, so this is a poster design, and again, if I go to edit and I go to color settings, I want these color settings to match. Now these certainly do not match, and it's set to my home printer, my Canon IPF glossy photographic paper, because the last thing I did with this document was print it at home on that printer. So if I'm sending that out, I need to standardize this. I need to put it back, or putting this into my InDesign document, I need to reset this so that it's using the Adobe And there again is the web coded swap v2. I want this to be uncoded. And so now all of those things are matching. Okay? And nothing is going to convert if I bring in documents from those two sources with those settings. However, the last sticky wicket would be if I have a document such as, I'm going to open up the flower, purple flower JPEG. This is an RGB document. You'll notice that as I try to open up, the working space settings are set on to reassign the profile, assign working RGB to this or leave it alone. So I'm going to assign my settings, which may change the color ever so slightly, probably not a huge amount that you would tell, but it does look a little more brilliant. Maybe I'm just imagining that because I am a nut. So when I save this and I want to put it in my document, those settings, if I look at them again, if I look at to edit the settings of this document, they still match because when I opened up the document, I made it shift to these settings. Down here are some check mark boxes in Photoshop for mismatches. I want it to ask me when opening something that's not matched. I want me to ask when pasting something that's not matched. And I want it to ask when there's a missing profile, what to do. So I keep those all checked on, and that's what happened when I opened up this document. It asked me, what do you want to do? So if I close it, I didn't save it, right? But if I open it again, it has a different color setting. See, it says, what do I do? It doesn't match. What you say you want is this. Convert it to that. And then convert document to working RGB. Now I'm assigning and converting that. And then when I save this to put this in my document, the RGB settings will match if I'm printing in RGB, but I'm not printing in RGB. I'm printing in CMYK, and I'll talk about color models a little bit more with you, but I'm going to go to mode, and I'm going to change the CMYK value, the RGB to the CMYK. I'm changing the model or color mode from RGB to CMYK by choosing this choice.
Right.
So,
and we do that with all our photos that we're going to use in the book.
Right, so there, I'm changing it, and it says you're about to convert it, and now it doesn't look nearly as bright. And if I want to, I could do a levels adjust and try to get it to look better, but I would also mention that the screen mode is currently at standard, and that is fine, and I can also here do different overlays, like a UV overlay. What do these things look like with different settings on, print size, and this is called a gamut warning. Okay, gamut warning means if I choose this choice and there's colors in here that won't print, they will look strange in this image. So I'm going to go Command L for levels, and I'm going to bring this up. So still no weirdness, no gray. If I go Command U and I increase the saturation, so far no hideous results. But if I hit a color, Command U, I'll do it again, I don't think it's going to do much. If I hit a color that is not printable, and this is starting to do a little of that here, and it will make a gray mark in this. Like little gray pixels will show up, and you'll be like, that looks bad. And you're going to have to keep shifting the color so those gray marks go away. Otherwise, that color won't be what you think it's going to be.
For our department's photo collection, the photo lab, usually you can get the photo already in the CMYK.
That's essentially the ins and outs of setting those settings so that everything matches up. And if you're bringing a photo and it's not in the right color profile, that will also cause this issue. Okay.
Well, it's our student practice to make sure the photos are all